Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Q&A video. So first of all, thank you all so much for posting all of your questions on Discord. I really did appreciate it. Again, if you want to take part in these videos, definitely go follow me on Discord. That's usually where I ask for questions and stuff. There's a channel there and whatnot. The link for the Discord is in the description of this video. But again, for those that posted questions, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you are new here, definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get more Walking Dead content like this. The show is returning in 18 days. Kind of frustrating for me because now it feels like every day is taking too long. It was flying by for so long. I think I'm just hyping it up too much in my head right now. I kind of have to just ignore it a little bit and it'll be here before we know it kind of thing, right? So yeah, The Walking Dead's returning in 18 days. So like I said, if you do want to get all my reviews for each episode, trailer breakdowns, news and info breakdowns, all of that, then make sure to hit subscribe. Let's actually get into the first question here. So do you think that it's possible for there to be a mid-credits scene and a post-credits scene? So I guess I should say there's actually going to be a lot of post-credit scene talk in here, which makes a lot of sense because of the news that came out yesterday. And there's actually some sort of debate, I would say, on the post-credit scene and all that, but we'll get to that with some of these questions here. But, you know, in terms of having two post-credit scenes, or I guess like a mid-credits or post-credit, it all depends on the creative process, because Gimple said he's working on something right now, and so it really depends on what they come up with, because they might feel like, you know, if they come up with one idea, they might be like, well, that's not enough, so they have to do something else, or, you know what I mean? It really depends. They could come up with two ideas that are just too good to just let go. Like maybe they have to release that. They have to show us that. So there totally could be, like, I could definitely see them doing two, like, or I guess a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene. It's, I don't know if it's ever really been done, you know, looking back. I don't think we've ever really gotten that. But again, The Walking Dead's ending, right? This is the first time the original show's ever ended, obviously. So, you know, you could always end it with a bang and just do something really big there, right? So yeah, I'd be totally cool with it. I think it's possible anyways, but for sure, I think they're going to do the one. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Do you think that it's possible for there to be a flashback in one of the final episodes about how much they have lost? They usually do versions of that. They like to call back to the past quite a bit. And so I'm imagining that final episode, the episode before the penultimate episode, being very focused on like maybe even season one or just the past and the things that have happened, right? Because once we go forward to the spinoffs, there's definitely going to be some callbacks to the past. Definitely. They're not going to ignore it. But this is sort of your one time to do it on The Walking Dead. So it makes sense to do that a little bit more here because you're ending the show. You know, a lot of people like to write stuff where it's like the characters or story goes full circle. Fans really like that stuff as well. And honestly, like if you're ending a story a certain way, it makes sense to do stuff like that. So I have no issue with it. In terms of flashbacks, like I really feel like it's probably not going to be flashbacks. If anything, hallucination scenes of certain characters being around, right? So there'll be a hallucination of this event, or this character will appear to someone in a dream sort of thing. Maybe they even have Carl come back or something like that, right? Or Abraham come back for something. Like, I could totally see them doing that. Because, I mean, if you think about Rick's final episode, they brought Shane back, which was just really unheard of. Like, there is no way any of us could have predicted that because it was really out of nowhere. They brought Sasha back. They brought Herschel back. You know, and then for Michonne's final episode, they obviously, I mean, they didn't bring Andrea back, but Andrea, she was involved there a little bit. And so, you know, they did go back and sort of, you know, give us that sort of recap of Michonne's story or like these what if scenarios. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to see that. So yeah, I could totally see them doing some sort of flashback. And I would even add like more of a hallucination or like dream sequence sort of thing. Do you think we could see Rick with his cut off arm like in the comic, perhaps in a post-credit scene or in the new show? I don't see it being a post-credit scene thing. I think that is a storyline they could totally do though in his new show. I don't know how fans would feel about that, but I mean, hey, like, you obviously can't cater the story too much to the fans, right? Like, you do want to do stuff that's going to make sense with the story. I just don't know if it makes too much sense because they kind of gave Aaron that, right? Aaron had a different version of that story told, obviously, because in the comic, what happens is, I'm pretty sure the governor does it, right? And so it's very different now. I mean, they could obviously change things up here. They could do something very, very similar. It's just, do they want to go that direction with the character? I think they totally could if they know for a fact that like this show's going to run for like 5 or 6 seasons or something like that, 4 or 5 seasons. And if that's the case, then they might do that around like season 4, right? I don't think they're going to be doing it in the first season because I think they're going to want to push it off a little bit, but I could totally see them doing that. Yeah, like for sure. Not in the post-credit scene though, but on the new show. Do you think we will see the end of the Commonwealth or will someone from our group take over? The end of the Commonwealth, I just don't see them wasting a community like that. So no, I don't see that. Our group's going to take over. But it's not like they're going to take over. They're just going to take the bad leadership down, and then someone else will be in charge. Like, at this point in the comic, Maggie eventually became the leader. I don't know if she became the leader right away. Like, that was never really said. I don't know if she actually became the leader right away. I just know eventually she became the president, and I believe there is like an electoral system there. So I don't think Maggie became the leader immediately once Pamela Milton stepped down, but obviously like 15 years later, 20 years later, at some point in the future, she eventually does. Which I think also lines up with where we're at in the show. Like, Maggie and Negan are going to the Walking Dead Dead City, right? So we're going to see them go there, have their own story. There's going to be some reuniting with Rick, everyone else, bring everyone back home. After like 4 or 5 seasons of all of those shows, and, you know, you end this current story here, then I can see her definitely becoming, you know, the leader of the Commonwealth. I think we'll eventually get that. I've been hearing so much backlash on Twitter with people complaining that they are having a post-credit scene. I get it. Twitter's Twitter, and people are going to complain no matter what. But do you feel they should have concluded the whole story on the main show and then never expand this universe? Personally, I'm so hyped for the spinoffs, and I'm glad they are making the Walking Dead a legit universe. I'll eat up Walking Dead content till I die. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, everyone's doing it. Like, any franchise out there wants to expand. And if you're AMC or any sort of, you know, if you're just a movie production company in general, or just in the movie making business, I guess I should be saying, or television show business, like, you want to get the most out of your product. And I think it makes sense to do that because The Walking Dead has the fan base for it. If it never had the fan base for it, this wouldn't be happening, right? Like, a bunch of other shows get spinoffs all the time. Like, it happens literally all the time. Sitcoms get spinoffs, right? Those don't usually work out too well, but sometimes they do. And I think in terms of The Walking Dead, you know, it's different because it's not one of those type of shows where it's like that. You know, it's more universe building, right? It's more in line with like Marvel and all that, where they can kind of just keep going on forever and ever. And The Walking Dead, if they really wanted to, could go on forever and ever. Obviously, you're going to end the Rick Grimes story eventually, but you know, that the next year they could have like a Walking Dead Next Generation show and then focus on something else entirely. Like, they can keep going on forever and ever. So like, I'm totally excited for all the spinoffs, and honestly, like getting Rick back next year is going to be super exciting. And I hope the show goes for like 4 or 5 seasons. I don't know how long they're gonna do it for. I really feel like that depends on Andrew Lincoln. Like, definitely a couple of seasons for sure. We're gonna get that first season. We'll see after that. It should be renewed for a season 2. They might up the amount of episodes from 6 to like 8. Maybe 10. I don't see them going any more than that because most shows don't do that anymore. Maybe even 13, because I know some shows will do that. But I think sticking within that range of like, you know, 8 to 10 episodes, or maybe even 6 to 10 episodes is the most likely, you know, thing that they'll likely do if it gets renewed for season 2. I expect them to renew the show. I think it would be crazy for them to not renew it because of where the story is, and the ratings are going to be so much higher. Like, people are going to want to watch Rick Grimes' return. They're going to be getting AMC Plus. Like, it's going to be nuts. And, you know, in terms of the thing that you're talking about there, and with the post-credit scene, and to sort of get into your question here, you know, with the backlash on that, I've seen some people say that they hate this post-credit scene idea, and or if it's related to Rick anyways. And I don't get it. I personally don't really get it. I don't understand the belief of, if Rick's not in that last episode, or even the last couple of episodes, and he's not reunited with all those characters, then the show's horrible and it's a horrible ending. Like, they're not going to be doing that. Rick is not going to be there in Alexandria. Like, I don't know for sure, but I'm really assuming that he's not going to be, because they're doing a bunch of other stuff. Like, Michonne left not even that long ago on the show's timeline to go and find him. We still have to see how that's going to happen. And more than that, there's going to be some stuff in there with Rick in the 6-year time jump, or it's closer to 8 years now, I think. So there's a lot of stuff there with Rick that we still have to know, you know, like what's he up to? And I also don't want to have his reveal, you know, he's been away for a while, save his reveal for the show. Like, the thing is, when Andrew Lincoln left The Walking Dead, he left The Walking Dead. Like, he left that show, and he wanted to do other things like the movies and stuff like that. And obviously plans have changed from the movies, and they're doing this TV show now, which I know for some people would probably be like, well, man, he should have just stayed on the show for the whole time. But obviously he wanted to leave. He wanted to spend time with his kids. He had a bunch of personal reasons for leaving. And honestly, I like the way that it sort of played out, because with the show the last couple of years, it has been fun. There's been some ups and downs, but I don't think the show had really any control in those ups and downs. I guess in a way they had some control, like with the bonus episodes and stuff. Like they didn't have to do the bonus episodes, but I actually really like the way that it turned out. I'm super happy with the story overall right now, because we have so much to look forward to right now in terms of the universes and how it's expanding, and all the characters being split up into different directions. Because if you remember, and this is the one thing that I think people should sort of keep in mind, and I don't remember the exact details on this, but I remember the plan originally for Daryl and Carol before they announced The Walking Dead was ending was they were actually going to have Daryl and Carol leave the show for a bit. So leave the show, go do some other stuff, maybe with the spinoff or in the Rick show or whatever, or maybe movies, I guess, at that point, and then come back. Like, that was the plan. Could you imagine how people would have reacted then? I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but to me, it's kind of all related. And so going back to the post-credit scene here, the future of all this is super exciting. There's so much they're able to do with Rick. And when he left the show in 2018, he was gone. Like, when Rick left the show, that was essentially the last time he was going to really be on the show. And so if we're going to get him again, it's going to be, leading the future of the franchise. Like, essentially, The Walking Dead's ending right now. And then once it's over on November, whatever the date's going to be, literally, like, the second it's over, The Walking Dead is now led by Rick Grimes. And then we go into this era where we're just sort of waiting for the Rick Grimes show, and then there's going to be the Daryl and obviously the Dead City spinoff, right? And we're just in that era there. So I think having a post-credit scene at the end of The Walking Dead to tease that future makes a lot of sense, because to have Rick show up on The Walking Dead and end that story doesn't really make much sense when they're doing so much more in the future there. So I don't really get the complaint, unless you just want The Walking Dead to end. Like, unless you just want him to show up here at the end and that's it, and then you're done watching the show. If that's the case, I mean, obviously AMC disagrees because they want to keep going. Andrew Lincoln disagrees because he wants to keep going and doing other things. So yeah, I'm excited about the post-credit scene. If it ends up being with something with Rick, or if they end up doing, I'm sure they're going to do one, but if they end up doing something with Rick, then yeah, I'm so excited for that. How would Nick react to the CRM if he was still alive? Well, I mean, I think he would just react like how everyone is sort of reacting to the Civic Republic, right? I think he would just be absolutely stunned. Do you see Madison going over to the Rick and Michonne spinoff or any other spinoff? I see them, if anything, yeah, like I could totally see her going to that spinoff, but I sort of see all of those characters on Fear the Walking Dead going to those spinoffs in the next couple of years. We'll see what Fear has planned, but I don't think it has too much longer. I do think it's probably going to end by season 10 for sure. I can totally see Madison going to one of those spinoffs, like totally. In the last episode's intro, do you think we will finally see the Walking Dead title completely crumble like it showed us in seasons 1 to 8? I don't know. Honestly, I don't really know. I don't know what they're planning to do for that. Like, it's going to be a really emotional episode. I mean, I imagine it's going to be so special. They're probably working on it right now. I don't really know what to expect, honestly. I have no idea what to expect with that. There's so much that they're able to do there. As of now, I kind of just have to go with, like, maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll touch on some of the older intros throughout the show's history and sort of incorporate that. I imagine the opening sequence is also going to, have some stuff from the show's history from season 3, 4, 1, and whatnot, 6, 7. So yeah, I'm excited for that. But I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Thank you guys so much for all of your questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.